Chapter 1. The Unexpected Prize. Kale's boots echoed softly against the polished obsidian floor of the Zarian Council's Grand Hall, a cavernous space where light refracted through towering crystalline pillars and danced across walls etched with the history of 1,000 years. The air was thick with the scent of exotic incense, a mingling of spicy herbs from the jungle worlds, and the faint metallic tang that clung to the weapons of those who had come to negotiate or assert dominance in the tangled politics of the Orion expanse. Outside the great panoramic windows, the starfield stretched endlessly, a silent witness to the shifting tides of power, peace, and betrayal that defined this volatile region of space. For Kale, a former soldier and now a mercenary hardened by countless battles and betrayals, this moment felt strangely surreal, a far cry from the brutal firefights and desperate missions that had come to define his existence. Yet here he was, standing in the ornate chamber of the Zarian Council, a faction known as much for their cunning as their ferocity, and being offered a reward unlike any he had ever anticipated. The mission that had brought him here was one of the most delicate and dangerous he had ever undertaken. Kale had been hired to broker a fragile truce between two warring clans whose conflict threatened to engulf multiple star systems in all-out war. Using a combination of diplomacy, strategic prowess, and no small amount of personal risk, Kale had navigated backroom deals, assassinations narrowly avoided, and sabotage on both sides. Against impossible odds, he succeeded, delivering peace where none had dared hope. Now, in recognition of his efforts, the council had presented him with a choice, a reward that was as symbolic as it was tangible. Two alien women stood before him, representatives not just of their species, but of the very essence of the alliance he had forged. The message was clear: select one to accompany you as a companion, a bridge between worlds, and a living testament to the unity you helped create. The two women were striking, but in utterly different ways. To his left was Lysara, a member of the Solari, a species known for their ethereal beauty and psychic sensitivity. Her skin was pale and translucent, patterned with soft, glowing veins that pulsed gently with bioluminescence. Her large, luminous eyes held a depth that seemed to peer beyond the physical, as if she could read the very thoughts of those around her. Her movements were fluid and graceful, like water flowing over stones, and an aura of calm intelligence surrounded her. Lysara spoke rarely, but when she did, her voice was melodic, imbued with a soothing cadence that could quell the most heated arguments. She represented peace, wisdom, and the delicate balance of life that her jungle world had taught her to respect and protect. To his right stood Drakther, a warrior of the volcanic planet Karath, a world ravaged by fire and ash, where survival depended on strength and unyielding will. Her skin was a deep bronze, marked with scars and tribal tattoos that told stories of battles fought and won. Muscles coiled beneath her skin like springs ready to unleash fury at a moment's notice. Her eyes burned with fierce determination, reflecting the harsh landscape that had forged her. Where Lysara embodied serenity, Drakther was raw energy and power incarnate, her presence commanding attention as if the very air around her crackled with heat. Her voice was sharp and direct, each word a statement of intent. She was a protector, a fighter, and a symbol of resilience in the face of unrelenting adversity. The council expected a swift decision. Their customs dictated that the chosen companion would be a symbol of unity and reward, a gift that strengthened bonds and honored achievement. Yet Kale felt the pressure of centuries of tradition bearing down on him. He could sense the counselor's eyes, the weight of their expectations. Choosing one meant honoring one culture while potentially alienating the other, a delicate balance that could ripple through the fragile peace he had fought so hard to secure. But when his gaze shifted between Lysara's serene, knowing smile and Drakther's fierce, unwavering stare, Kale realized that the binary choice they expected was not one he was willing to accept. The galaxy was a vast, complex place where few things were simply black or white, and he had learned that strength often came from embracing contradictions rather than denying them. With quiet resolve, Kale stepped forward and spoke words that rippled through the chamber like a challenge to convention. "I choose both." The silence that followed was thick and palpable. The counselors exchanged looks, surprise flickering across their faces before being masked by carefully maintained expressions of protocol. The two women regarded him with different reactions. Lysara's eyes widened with a mixture of surprise and cautious hope, while Drakthar's fierce gaze softened just a fraction, a small nod acknowledging the unexpected alliance. To Kale, the choice was not about possession or reward, it was about partnership, unity, and embracing the complexity of a galaxy where survival depended on strength and diversity. He saw in both women strengths that complemented each other and himself. Together, they represented a future beyond the limitations of tradition, a new beginning forged in the fires of trust and shared purpose. As the chamber erupted into cautious murmurs and whispered debates, Kale felt a quiet satisfaction settle over him. The journey ahead would be fraught with challenges, political intrigue, cultural clashes, and the shadows of those who sought to undermine the fragile peace. But with Lysara and Drakthar at his side, he was ready to face whatever storms came next. Their story was just beginning, a tale of loyalty, courage, and the unbreakable bonds formed when hearts and minds choose to walk a path together, not divided, but united. Kale's mind was a storm of conflicting emotions, swirling beneath the calm exterior he wore like a second skin. The Grand Hall of the Zarian Council was a paradox itself, opulent yet cold, ancient yet fiercely modern, a stage set for decisions that could ripple across galaxies. The very air seemed charged with history and power, with the weight of countless alliances brokered and shattered within these walls. As he stood between Lysara and Drakthar, the two alien women offered to him as a prize, he realized that the choice was more than personal. It was a symbol of unity or division, of the fragile peace he had fought to create or the chaos that might follow if he failed. The counselors' faces were impassive, but Kale could feel their expectations pressing down on him, an invisible force demanding a simple answer to a question that defied simplicity. He took a slow breath, allowing his eyes to study the two companions before him in detail, searching beyond surface beauty to the souls they carried. Lysara's delicate, shimmering skin was like a living canvas, glowing faintly with patterns that seemed to pulse in harmony with her breath. Her eyes held a depth that invited trust and understanding, a quiet wisdom born from a species whose very existence was entwined with the mysteries of psychic connection and empathy. She moved with a grace that suggested not just physical agility, but emotional resilience, a presence that could soothe the deepest wounds and bring peace where others sowed discord. She was a beacon of hope, a reminder that even in a universe torn by conflict, light could find a way. In stark contrast, Drakthar embodied the harsh, unyielding realities of survival. Her bronze skin, etched with scars and swirling tattoos, told stories of battles fought under blazing suns and relentless storms. Her eyes, burning like twin stars, were a challenge and a promise that she would protect fiercely, fight relentlessly, and never back down. The power she radiated was raw and elemental, a force that could shatter walls or build new foundations in equal measure. Her voice, when she spoke, carried the resonance of volcanic fury tempered by wisdom hard-earned through trials by fire. She was a warrior and a guardian, a living testament to strength forged through hardship. Kale's heart beat steadily as he considered the implications of choosing one over the other. The Council's tradition was clear, one companion as a symbol of alliance. But Kale's own journey had taught him the dangers of simplicity in a complex galaxy. The peace he had brokered was fragile precisely because it required balance, understanding, and sometimes defiance of expectations. To choose only one companion might alienate the other's people, destabilize fragile ties, and invite unrest. Yet to choose both was unheard of, a challenge to centuries of protocol and a potential spark for controversy. The room held its breath as Kale's gaze moved again from Lysara's serene smile to Drakthar's intense stare. Both women waited silently, their expressions unreadable but open to possibility. He felt a surge of conviction rise within him, an unshakable certainty that the path forward was not to divide but to unite. His voice, calm but firm, broke the silence. "I choose both." The words hung in the air, heavy with meaning and consequence. The initial shock among the counselors was palpable. Eyes widened, Whispered conversations flickered like flames in a still night, but outwardly, the dignitaries maintained their composure. Tradition was a powerful current in the Zarian culture, and Kale's choice was a stone thrown into its depths. But as the silence stretched, he saw a shift, curiosity, grudging respect, and perhaps the first seeds of change. Lysara's eyes glimmered with cautious hope, a small smile playing on her lips. Drakthar's fierce gaze softened just a touch, her stance relaxing as she acknowledged the decision with a subtle nod. Kale stepped forward, bridging the space between the two women, and spoke again, this time to them both. We are stronger together, not as symbols or trophies, but as partners, as equals. The galaxy we navigate is vast and uncertain, but if we face it united, there is no storm we cannot weather. The chamber seemed to exhale, the tension melting into a fragile but promising new beginning. What followed was an intricate dance of diplomacy and trust-building. The counselors convened in hushed meetings, assessing the ramifications of Kale's unprecedented choice. Rumors and debates rippled through the starport and beyond, stirring questions about tradition, progress, and the nature of alliance. For Kale, Lysara, and Drakthar, the journey was just beginning. They would need to learn each other's languages, cultures, and ways of thinking. They would face suspicion and hostility not only from outside factions, but from within their own circles. Yet beneath the challenges lay a deeper connection, a shared resolve to redefine what it meant to be allies, companions, and family in a galaxy hungry for peace. In the quiet moments away from council chambers and political intrigue, Kale found himself drawn to the contrasting strengths of the two women. Lysara's calm intuition balanced Drakthar's fiery spirit. Her empathy softened his scars while Drakthar's courage emboldened his will. Together, they formed a triad of resilience and hope, each filling the gaps left by the other's experiences and fears. And in those moments, Kale understood that his choice was not just a reward but a revolution, a new kind of bond born from respect, courage, and the audacity to choose unity over division. As the stars wheeled overhead beyond the starport's glass dome, Kale gazed into the vastness with renewed purpose. The road ahead would be treacherous and unpredictable, but with Lysara and Drakthar by his side, he was ready to face whatever the galaxy dared to throw at them. Together, they would carve a path through the darkness, not as conquerors or pawns, but as partners forging a future on their own terms. Chapter 2: Bonds Beyond Worlds. The weeks that followed Kale's unprecedented decision to embrace both Lysara and Drakthar as his companions became a crucible of transformation, not only for the trio, but for the fragile alliances that hung in delicate balance throughout the Orion expanse. The political repercussions of his choice rippled like shockwaves through the star systems, challenging centuries-old customs and forcing those who had long held power to reconsider the nature of unity and strength. The Zarian Council, initially taken aback, found themselves compelled to accept this new reality, as whispers of Kale's courage and vision spread across diplomatic channels and shadowed backrooms alike. It was a move that some hailed as revolutionary, others condemned as reckless, but none could deny that it had changed the conversation about what it meant to forge bonds between cultures in a galaxy as diverse and fractious as theirs. Within the walls of Kale's newly established command vessel, a sleek cruiser adapted from salvaged parts and cutting-edge technology, the dynamics of this unconventional family unfolded with all the complexity of a star system in flux. Lysara, with her serene grace and psychic sensitivity, and Drakthar, with her fierce loyalty and unyielding strength, stood as pillars of balance and contrast to halves of a whole that defied the simple binaries so many others clung to. Their cultures, vastly different in history and values, became a source of learning and sometimes tension, but also of profound growth. Where Lysara introduced Kale to the subtle art of psychic communion, teaching him to listen beyond words and feel the unspoken currents of emotion and intent, Drakthar challenged him to embrace his primal instincts, to fight fiercely not only for survival, but for justice and honor in a galaxy that often had neither. Kale found himself caught between these worlds, learning to navigate not only the politics of the stars, but the intricate dance of hearts and minds that formed their bond. Their shared quarters aboard the cruiser became a sanctuary and a school, a place where trust was forged in long conversations beneath the hum of the ship's engines, in moments of vulnerability hidden behind steely gazes, and in the fierce protection each offered the others against the dangers that lurked both outside and within. The nights were filled with whispered stories of home worlds so different they might as well have been myth, of ancestors whose legacies shaped their destinies, and of hopes that stretched beyond the horizon of known space. Lasara spoke of the luminous jungles of Lasara Prime, where bioluminescent flora created a symphony of light and shadow, and where her people had learned to harness psychic energy to heal and protect. Drakther recounted the harsh volcanic plains of Korath, where survival meant mastering the fury of nature and forging bonds of loyalty as unbreakable as the molten rock that flowed beneath their feet. And Kale, in turn, shared tales of battles and betrayals, of moments when the weight of command pressed so heavily on his shoulders that the stars themselves seemed to dim. The trio's growing closeness was not without its challenges. The external pressures from political factions and rival mercenaries seeking to exploit any perceived weakness were constant and unrelenting. Messages intercepted from hostile forces revealed plots to undermine the fragile peace, to turn the alliance Kale embodied into ashes. Each mission to secure trade routes or negotiate with volatile worlds tested their unity and resolve. Lasara's diplomatic finesse and Drakther's tactical prowess complemented Kale's leadership, creating a synergy that baffled and intimidated their adversaries. Their combined strengths forged a path through the perilous labyrinth of galactic politics. But the greatest battles often came in quieter moments, internal struggles to reconcile their different natures, and the ever-present fear that the bonds they had formed might fracture under the weight of expectation and fear. Yet, it was precisely this interplay of differences that became their greatest strength. Lasara's calming presence soothed the tensions that sometimes flared between Kale and Drakther, while Drakther's fierce passion ignited a fire in both Kale and Lasara to stand firm against injustice and betrayal. Together, they redefined the meaning of partnership and loyalty, demonstrating to a skeptical galaxy that strength lay not in uniformity, but in diversity, not in division, but in unity. Their story spread through the stars not just as a tale of a mercenary who refused to choose between two alien companions, but as a symbol of hope and transformation in a galaxy yearning for balance. As their journey continued through star systems scarred by war and worlds blossoming with tentative peace, Kale, Lasara, and Drakther faced trials that tested the limits of their courage and commitment. From skirmishes with pirate warlords to negotiations with ancient civilizations guarding forgotten secrets, each challenge deepened their bond and reshaped their understanding of what it meant to be family in a universe defined by change. And amid the stars, where light and shadow intertwined, they carved a legacy not of conquest or domination, but of trust, respect, and the unbreakable ties forged when hearts choose to stand together against all odds. Chapter 3. Trials of Unity and Shadows of the Past. The vastness of space held no illusions for Kale and his companions. Every star system they traversed was a tapestry woven with threads of hope and danger, light and shadow, alliance and betrayal. By the time they reached the fringe of the Cerefos cluster, a region infamous for lawlessness and clandestine power struggles, the trio had already learned that their unity was both their greatest asset and their most vulnerable point. Lasara's empathic insight often sensed shifts in moods and intentions before words were spoken, while Drakther's instincts sharpened with every encounter, her readiness to defend their fragile bond with ferocity unmatched. Kale, the steady heart of their alliance, balanced these forces with a careful hand, navigating political minefields and brutal skirmishes alike. Yet, the trials that awaited them in Cerefos would push them beyond anything they had yet faced, not only testing their alliance, but threatening to unravel the very fabric of trust they had so painstakingly built. Cerefos was a crucible, a system fractured into warring factions and pirate enclaves, where the rule of law was a memory and survival demanded both guile and strength. Their arrival did not go unnoticed. From the shadows of abandoned space stations to the neon-lit underbelly of orbital cities, whispers of Kale's triad had spread, drawing curious eyes and hungry hands alike. The Serefos Council, a fractured assembly of warlords and mercenary captains, was wary of outsiders wielding influence over powerful alien houses. They had little patience for mercenaries and their unusual alliances, especially when those alliances threatened to upset the delicate balance of control over trade routes and black market dealings. To tread these volatile corridors, Kale and his companions had to blend diplomacy, intimidation, and unwavering unity. Their first challenge came swiftly, a diplomatic envoy that devolved into a trap. An ambush orchestrated by a rival mercenary syndicate, aiming to capture or eliminate Kale and claim the influence of Lysara and Drakther for themselves. The attack was brutal and chaotic, a blur of laser fire, ion blasts, and desperate maneuvers amid the rusted corridors of a derelict space station. Lysara's psychic defenses shielded them from the worst of the surprise assault, weaving subtle mental barriers that disrupted enemy coordination. Drakther, unyielding and fierce, led counterattacks with ruthless precision, turning the tide with sheer force and tactical brilliance. Kale coordinated their movements, issuing commands with calm authority even as the walls shook and sparks flew. The battle was a crucible, burning away doubt and hesitation, forging their bond into something stronger than any weapon. In the aftermath, the trio found refuge in the hidden enclaves of the Serefos cluster, places where old friends and uneasy allies dwelled. Here, Kale confronted ghosts from his past, former comrades turned rivals, debts unpaid, and choices that haunted the edges of his conscience. The tension between his old life and his new alliance weighed heavily, forcing him to reconcile the man he had been with the man he sought to become. Lysara's gentle guidance and Drakther's fierce loyalty became anchors in the storm, reminding him that unity was not simply an ideal but a lifeline. Their time in Serefos also deepened the connection between Lysara and Drakther, two souls from worlds as different as fire and water, learning to weave their strengths into a seamless tapestry of support and understanding. Nights spent beneath the fractured skies of alien moons were filled with stories of home, laughter, and the quiet moments where differences melted away into shared dreams. They trained together, blending Lysara's psychic grace with Drakther's combat mastery, creating fighting styles that were as unpredictable as they were effective. Their partnership became a symbol, a beacon to those in the cluster yearning for something beyond the endless cycle of violence. Yet the shadows of the past loomed large. Whispers of an ancient order, a secret that had bound Lysara's and Drakther's worlds in conflict and alliance for centuries, began to surface. An order that sought the very power Kale now wielded, an arcane force hidden within the depths of the Orion expanse, capable of shifting the balance of all life. This revelation threatened to unravel everything, forcing the trio to confront not only external enemies but the weight of history and destiny that bore down upon them. As they prepared to face these new challenges, Kale felt the full magnitude of what their unity represented. They were no longer merely mercenaries or diplomats. They were a living testament to the power of trust forged across cultures and conflicts, a beacon of hope in a galaxy teetering on the edge of chaos. Their trials in Serefos would be a defining chapter in a saga that would echo across the stars, a story of courage, sacrifice, and the unbreakable bonds formed when hearts choose to stand together against all odds. Chapter 4: The Nexus of Destiny. The sprawling nebula of the Epsilon Rift stretched across the viewport of Kale's command deck, like a cosmic tapestry woven from threads of incandescent gas and shimmering stardust, a radiant yet dangerous expanse that had claimed more ships than any other sector in the galaxy. It was here, amidst the swirling chaos of light and shadow, that Kale, Lysara, and Drakther prepared to confront the final trial that would define not only their bond but the future of the fragile alliances they had forged. The stakes had never been higher. Across the expanse, factions stirred with intent, each drawn by rumors of an ancient artifact hidden deep within the Rift, a device known only as the Nexus, said to hold the power to reshape reality itself. Possession of the Nexus meant dominion over communication, energy, and the delicate balance of power among the stars. It was a prize that could unite the fractured galaxy or plunge it into eternal war. Kale's ship, the Seraph's Edge, cut through the glowing tendrils of the nebula with precise grace, its hull reinforced by layers of adaptive armor designed to withstand the rift's unpredictable energy surges. Within, the atmosphere was taut with anticipation and unspoken fears. Lysara sat calmly in the meditation chamber, her luminous skin reflecting the soft glow of psychically charged crystals embedded in the walls. Her mind was attuned to the subtle shifts in the energy field surrounding them, sensing currents of danger and hope intertwined in a cosmic dance. Nearby, Drakthar honed her weapons and tactics in the training bay, her body a living testament to strength forged in fire and battle, her fierce determination a shield against the uncertainty ahead. Kale paced between them, the weight of command heavy on his shoulders but tempered by the knowledge that their unity was their greatest weapon. The journey to the Nexus was fraught with peril. The Epsilon Rift was a maze of unstable spatial anomalies and rogue energy storms that threatened to tear ships apart or erase them from existence. Navigation required not only the finest technology, but intuition and trust qualities Kale, Lysara, and Drakthar had cultivated in their time together. Lysara's psychic gifts allowed them to predict and adapt to the Rift's erratic pulses, while Drakthar's combat readiness ensured they were prepared for any hostile encounters that might arise from the Rift's shadowed corners. Kale's leadership held the team steady, balancing hope with caution, innovation with pragmatism. As they approached the coordinates encoded in the ancient star charts recovered from Seraphos, the Seraph's edge was met by an eerie stillness. The swirling colors of the nebula gave way to a dark void punctuated by the faint outline of a massive structure, an ancient station of unknown origin, drifting silently in the abyss. The Nexus was housed within, protected by defenses both technological and arcane, relics of a civilization long vanished, but whose influence still echoed in the energies that pulsed through the station's core. Boarding the station was a gamble. Its systems were designed to repel invaders, testing not just physical strength, but wisdom and unity. Inside the station, the trio moved as one, Kale leading with tactical precision, Lysara weaving protective psychic shields, and Drakthar striking with lethal efficiency against any threat. The corridors were labyrinthine, lined with symbols and glyphs that shimmered with latent power, a language of light and energy that spoke of the Nexus's true purpose, a cosmic fulcrum connecting realities, capable of bending space-time to the will of its master. The trials they faced tested every facet of their bond, forcing them to confront fears, doubts, and sacrifices. Ancient defense mechanisms challenged their resolve with illusions that preyed on their deepest insecurities, while cryptic puzzles demanded cooperation and trust beyond words. At the heart of the station, the Nexus awaited, a crystalline construct of impossible geometry, radiating waves of pure energy that seemed to pulse with the heartbeat of the cosmos. It was both beautiful and terrifying, a reminder that power without wisdom was a curse. Kale reached out, feeling the surge of energy course through his veins, connecting him, Lysara, and Drakthar in a shared consciousness that transcended their individual selves. In that moment, they understood that the true power of the Nexus was not control over others, but harmony, a balance of forces that could heal or destroy depending on the intent of its wielders. As the station began to destabilize, triggered by their interaction with the Nexus, the trio made a desperate escape, the Seraph's edge racing against collapsing energy fields and collapsing space-time rifts. Emerging from the rift, they found themselves changed not just in spirit but in purpose. The galaxy awaited, uncertain but hopeful, as Kale, Lysara, and Drakthar prepared to usher in a new era where unity and strength were born from trust, not division. The chaos inside the ancient station crescendoed like a symphony of destruction, the Nexus's core destabilizing with a fury that threatened to unravel not only the facility, but the very fabric of the rift itself. Energy crackled in violent arcs, twisting the air with heat and light, while spatial distortions bent reality, creating moments where time seemed to stretch and compress in unpredictable pulses. Kale, Lysara, and Drakthar moved with synchronized urgency, every step, every breath, a testament to their unbreakable bond forged through trial and trust. Lysara's psychic shield shimmered around them, dampening the worst of the station's lethal energies, her mind reaching out to the Nexus's subtle rhythms, seeking a harmony that could restore balance. Dracthar's blade sang through the air, cutting down automated defenses that sprang to life in a last-ditch effort to protect the ancient secret. Kale's commands were steady and clear, directing their escape with a calm born of experience and unwavering faith in his companions. They reached the docking bay just as the station's core reached critical mass. The Seraph's edge awaited like a guardian angel amid the swirling chaos, its engines thrumming with latent power as Kale launched their final sprint. Behind them, the station erupted in a brilliant cascade of light and energy, a beacon of destruction and rebirth that illuminated the nebula with a radiance unseen in millennia. As they hurtled away from the collapsing Nexus, Kale looked back once not out of regret, but with a profound sense of closure. The artifact's power had been too great to wield by any one hand, and their decision to embrace unity and trust over domination had averted a catastrophe that could have shattered worlds. In the quiet aftermath, as the stars stretched endlessly before them, the trio sat together in the ship's observation deck. The rift's glowing tendrils faded into the distance, and with them, the shadow of ancient conflicts. Lysara's serene presence filled the room with calm, her eyes reflecting the stars outside, while Dracthar's fierce strength softened into a quiet pride. Kale felt a deep sense of peace wash over him, not because the galaxy was safe, but because they had chosen a path that honored diversity, loyalty, and hope. Their story was no longer about survival alone. It was about forging a future where differences were strength, where bonds transcended blood and species, and where love and partnership defied the old, rigid laws of power. News of their deeds spread like wildfire across the expanse, inspiring others to reconsider alliances and embrace the possibility of change. The Zarian Council officially recognized their union, a historic precedent that rippled through political spheres and cultural norms alike. Kale, Lysara, and Dracthar became symbols not just of peace, but of the audacity to challenge tradition and create new legacies. Together, they traveled the stars, champions of a fragile but growing harmony, their journey a beacon for all who dreamed of a galaxy united in its glorious diversity. As they charted new courses through uncharted systems, facing new adventures and challenges, one truth remained steadfast in their hearts. Strength was not found in choosing one over the other, but in choosing both and in choosing each other. The galaxy, vast and uncertain, was theirs to explore, protect, and transform. And in that endless expanse of stars, their bond burned brighter than any nebula, a testament to the power of unity, courage, and love beyond boundaries.